My name is Vincent Veza. I am an author. I'm the regional representative for the North Carolina Writers Network for the Metro North region, which encompasses Cabarrus and Rowan County, north of Charlotte. I had a privilege of meeting Tatisha, who's one of the authors in our group prior to the COVID. And back then, a year or so ago, maybe a little bit more than a year ago, she told me a little bit about an idea she had for writing a book about her life as the spouse of an incarcerated person, an inmate. And then as things evolved, she had this wonderful storyboard for another story that would incorporate not just her experience, but the experience of some of the women on this call. And that I had a chance to beta read the book, and I thank you so much, Tatisha, for getting that to me. As an author, I put on my beta reader hat and was blown away by the stories of these women who overcame so many obstacles and were able to share their pain early on that they carried on into adulthood, and how that pain somehow became a catalyst for positive acts, for going on for an advanced degree, or for finding meaningful employment, or finding life life at a new level, and somehow burying all of that terrible stuff in their youth. So I tell the writers in our group at the NCAA, at the North Carolina Writers Network, that every one of us has a story to tell, and we have a unique perspective for telling that story, as only we can tell that story. There was a woman who was a part of our group several years ago, a woman by the name of Susan Wright Beard, and she wrote several books, the first of which was You Cannot Be That, or You Can't Be That, a story about her as a minister living in the South, where it was not acceptable to be a woman and be a preacher at the same time. She approached me in May, I believe it was 2018, and said that she didn't have much longer to live and had a heart condition, and she wanted to write a short story for a newspaper column I manage called Trail Tales. And the story that she gave me was The Gift of Time. And she said that every one of you, as an author, as a person who writes, has an obligation to write your story and tell it as only you can tell it. She gave me that story. It was published a month later in the Senior Savvy newspaper, and within weeks she passed. Her husband carried on her manuscript. She had written a third book, and he took the manuscript, and he was able to take that and bring that to life and publish that book. Her words to the group, and I start out every meeting with her words, is, if you have a story to write, you must write it, because you are going to help other people, other women along the way, other men who have encountered similar difficulty in their life. Every one of the members in the North Carolina Writers Group that I managed in our region has somehow managed to bring a story that was very, very personal for them. We have one writer who is writing and finishing up a book. She normally writes paranormal novels, but she's written a book now, soon to be released, about her daughter who committed suicide by gun. The poor girl she had schizophrenia. There's no reason she should have had a weapon. And so Kimberly is actually turning that into a book that speaks a little bit to political activism, but it also speaks to people who, may be cavalier about weapons in their home and may have to rethink that and rethink, how they listen to people when they're crying out for help. The ladies I see on this screen have all given us some helpful hints, and I'm not going to steal your thunder, ladies, but to share what you have done and how you've taken that hardship, that pain, that challenge, and channeled it to the good and shared it in written word, which can then be an encouragement to other women. So I'm going to kind of step back and I guess let Tatisha follow up and tell a little bit about the genesis of the book, how it started, and how you got other women involved in the writing of this anthology and how you plan to expand it. And I will put myself on mute and be listening to what you all have to say.
Thank you, Vincent, for that invite. I thank you so much for the introduction. I am Tatisha LaVon Phelps. I am the author of His Life, Our Story. It was an avenue to lead me into the new book, Adulting My Childhood Pain. It's just going in to talk about things that we've went through as children, how we carried it into our adulthood, how it affects relationships, whether it be with our children and our spouse in marriage, as well as the way that we parent and way we work, carry on relationships, and things that we go through that we just don't heal from. It definitely affects us. So when I came up with the idea, I talked to God first and asked him for permission to do it. And I was told that I wasn't to do it alone because there were so many other women that were hurting just like me. And I asked the Lord, how was I going to get a panel of women? He told me I am to do an anthology and I wanted to be obedient, but I did not understand how I was going to get these women. God said, do your part and I will do mine. And God kept his word. Less than 1 hour later, I had about 9 women applying to be a part of it. It was just a conversation. Hey, this is what I'm doing. And the women were just wanting to know, how do I sign up? It's been a great experience. Out of those 9 women, we have, it's 5 of us collectively. The book is, the basis of the book, it takes place in a therapy session. We want people to understand that having a therapy session does not mean that we're crazy. It just means that we love ourselves enough to embrace our mental health. So there are 5 women here, and I will just go ahead and step aside and let each woman come up as we are on the Zoom. So if you guys will go in that order and just introduce yourselves, we'll go from there.
So it looks like I'm first. Am I first?
I was getting ready to say I'll go first because I have the smallest part.
Okay.
Okay. My name is Inez Bilal, and in the book, I am the therapist that is actually talking to each of these women and just providing them with some tools to work with. So I have like the smallest role in here, but everyone role in here is significant. So I just wanted to just get my little part out the way. I'm just a therapist in the book that's actually meeting with each of the women as they're sharing their stories.
And what is your name, Miss Inez, in the book, so that everybody knows who your character
Miss B. Miss B. And I chose Miss B because my last name is Bilal. So that's why I just kept it so simple. I said, let me just be Miss B. That's it. So that's
everybody loves Miss B.
Yeah, so that's why I was like, let me just do that. And that's pretty much what my role is, just walking the ladies through it, listening to them as the therapist, and that's basically it. The ladies wrote a powerful book. Their stories are very powerful and really very enlightening.
Thank you, Miss B.
Welcome.
Miss Aisha.
Hi. Everybody see me? So I'm Aisha Thomas. Looks like I may be first on the list. Just so honored to be part of such a wonderful, just combination of stories, a wonderful project. Thanks, Todd, for just inviting me in and just including me. I just felt like it was really important just for myself to tell my story. I think it goes back to the whole, I hate to be cliche here, but it's not how you start, but how you finish. And as I just kind of embark on my journey as an adult, just understanding that those things that may have happened as a child, just kind of got to work through those things, seek the certain level of therapy and healing from those things that may have happened in order to move forward to have healthy relationships.
Thank you. And what is your name and your character in the book?
Borough Street Babe.
All right, Borough Street Babe. Thank you for that introduction, Ms. Shanae.
Hello, everyone. I am Shanae. Everyone calls me Shay. So you can too. This journey has been a lot. I mean, just writing it down on paper. I mean, I'm not hesitant to tell my story at all, but to put it on paper and to put it out there for everyone to see, it's been it was a lot. It was a lot of stress, but I'm happy. I'm so grateful to be a part of this project. When Todd came to me and asked me about it, you know, I didn't hesitate to jump on board because as children, adults really don't pay children attention. They don't treat children like they are people. Like, to be a child is, you're just a child. Like, your feelings, they don't matter, but they absolutely do. For that reason, I'm in childcare now, and you know, I just want to be that source of love and caring. You know, whether they get it at home or not, I want to be able to give it to them because I know what it felt like not to have it as a child. In the book, my character is Tiffany, the outcast. And I chose that because that's pretty much how I felt growing up. Like, I was just outcast and had a hard time fitting in.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shanae, for your introduction. And last but not least, we have Charletta Marie.
Hello, hello. I'm Charletta Marie, and interestingly enough, I wasn't originally supposed to be a part of this project. I was just kind of hired help to format the book. I helped Todd with her last book, His Life, Our Story, and so she reached out. She's like, I'm working on my next book. I can't wait for you to hear the title. I'm so excited about it. And so we're just talking about formatting, you know, and then she told me about the project and I was like, wow. I said, well, if you have anybody drop out, let me know. I said, I might be interested in being a part of that. She goes, girl, it's fine. We got a Zoom at 7 o'clock, get on. And so it's funny how God's timing is perfect. You know, you can kind of hem and haw about something for a very long time. You know, I am a writer, and this is the one thing I've never written about. And, you know, the opportunity presented itself. I felt like it was the right time. And so I'm just grateful for this platform. I'm grateful for Todd's vision and for just kind of bringing us together and creating the space to be transparent and to be open, to be vulnerable, which is something I always struggle with. My name in the book is Push Through, because I just push through stuff. I don't even, you know, we don't even have time to deal with it, or, you know, we just kind of bounce back and keep it moving. So my name is Mookie and I'm Push Through. So again, just grateful to be here, grateful for the opportunity, and thank you.
All right. And I'll just tell you a little bit more. I am Miss Groney in the book, and my adjective of choice was rebellion. So I'm Miss Rebellious inside of the book, and I can't wait for you guys to just read, and hopefully we get a lot of people to heal. And I just wanted to make sure that I say that this book is not to tarnish or harm anyone that is inside of the story, but to raise awareness so that we can heal. And unfortunately, we're not born to ourselves. So we're not alone inside of the book, but we are here to share our stories. So that's why the subtitle was so important, not to hurt you, but to heal me. Because if we don't try to heal ourselves, who will? And I'll give it back to Vincent.
Wow. Well, in reading the original manuscript, Tatisha, I was impressed with how each of the women, basically exposed their vulnerability. They shared those moments in their early childhood and some of them were so hard. It was hard for me as a man to read it, as a father of 3 daughters, as a grandfather to 3 granddaughters, to read what you ladies had gone through. In my early years, I spent traveling around the world. Dad was in the military, but for some of the growing up years, I had a chance to live not too far from where some of you lived in New Jersey, actually in Hudson County, and I know some of you were in Newark and other points in that megalopolis, and the mean streets of the ghetto, right? All of that done and said, it's still, it just tears at your heart to see what you had to go through. I mean, I'm still taken back when I read the manuscript a second and a third time. I love the way you position the story as you develop the story arc by having the conversation with the therapist, with Miss B, so that there's a consistency to the storyline, so that it's not just 9 random stories. There's stories that are tied together through that therapist lens, and I think that really adds a lot of value, because you can now add another 9 stories or 900 stories, and you can always go with that thread that you've already woven, and that'll allow people to say, I had that experience, or I had something similar to that. Because no one could actually walk a mile in any of your shoes. You just can't. I mean, people say, I think I know what you went through, but they don't. I think I understand, but they don't. They can't. It's just too powerful. And every single one of us, all 8 billion people on this planet, have experienced something that other people just cannot understand, except as you presented them through your written word, through the beautiful writing that all of you have demonstrated, which really impressed me when I read through the manuscript. You don't have to be an Ernest Hemingway. You don't have to be a award-winning novelist. You don't have to have a certain degree. What you have to have is a passion for your story, which you all have, and then you bring that to life using your own vernacular, your own syntax, your own pace. And in the telling of the story, I would encourage you to be thinking ahead to when you tell the story in person or on a Zoom call like this, so that you can share your experience the way storytellers in the oral tradition tell their stories. You bring it to life in any number of ways. When I wrote my first book, The Hidden Treasure of Dutch Buffalo Creek, it had snippets of 10 different lives that impacted my journey. And I took that as a book within a book format. And I deliberately set up the tone in that book so that readers would only be exposed to those elements of a story of each of the 10 characters that were suitable for the ears of my grandchildren, because I wrote the book for the grandkids, even though they were younger at the time, thinking ahead in the future. You ladies have done it one step further. You have exposed some of the deep secrets that you harbored as youngsters. It's very powerful. What you've done is extremely powerful. So I encourage you to, as you're getting in front of an audience, whether that's in a support group, or however you deem necessary to get the word out there, that you bring the same honesty and vulnerability, to use Chai's word, bring that to your audience, and they will be with you. They'll say, oh yeah, I might not understand 100%, but I know that that person's telling a deep-seated truth about something that was very personal to their life and how they overcame it. And if they could overcome that hardship, and then go on to be, for instance, a teacher of youngsters in a preschool setting, then I can do that. Or if they can go on to get that degree, which was denied them, and prove to their mom that they are capable as an adult as they move forward, then you're going to have your audience with you. So, Tatisha, I hope that helps frame the next series. I know that there's only a limited amount of time on this call, but I'm hoping that each of the authors can share a little bit about their story and what drove them. As moderator, my task would be to ask you, what drove you to take that part of your story? Because your life is much more than just that one or two or three snippets. But you decided that you wanted to put those one or two or three snippets as the basis of your storytelling experience in what formed you into the woman that you are today. So I'd like to put myself back on mute and give an opportunity, perhaps starting with you, Tatisha, what prompted you to reveal that part of yourself in the character, in your story?
All right, thank you, Vincent. It's very easy but hard at the same time. With writing his life, our story, it unveiled the healing and the brokenness that I was living, that I thought that I had healed from, and understanding that I didn't heal from these things. I had to go deeper. It was deeper than just a relationship between my husband and I. That's where I am today. So I had to think about, how did I get here? And to really analyze, am I really healed? And the answer was no. I was still broken. There was things that have not been talked about. As children, we're told what goes on here stays here. We're told to keep our mouths closed. We're told that children stay in the children's place. So the voice was taken away from us as children, or from me as a child. So with understanding that, it was imperative that I am grown and I am in charge of my own voice of who I am. And I can't allow anyone or anything to impair my healing. So I began to do the work. And as I stated previously, when God told me that I am available to do the healing, but I am not to do this second book alone. I had to be organic, and I had to be obedient to the mission that God sent me on. Because again, it's not about emphasizing on the characters that are in the book. Me personally, I didn't talk about names of the book. Characters in the book. I use the words he, she, them, they, which is easy for me to feel comfort, to protect, but also to be truthful and organic with myself. Because until I do the work, I'm just continuing to bury what it is that I'm going through. You know, the way that I look at relationships with myself and other people. What does that really look like? Am I truly giving them all of who I am when I work? Am I truly giving all of who I am? And when I look back, I'm not giving my true organic self, because I have so much hidden pain that I didn't uncover. The previous book, His Life, Our Story, just helped me pull back layers. There were still layers that had to be unveiled and dealt with. And this was the platform for me to do that. And I just thank the women that came on the project. I thank them for their transparency, because it just made it all that much easier not to go through reliving the hurt, the pain, and the tragedies. And I don't want to be emotional, but anybody who's listening, it's a very emotional place to really have to relive your whole childhood and all the pain and hurt that was never heard or discussed. And it was just a lot. And to be able to have a sisterhood to go through it was truly a blessing. These women, a lot of these women on here, I know, and I am the common denominator. None of these women know each other, but our vulnerability created the sisterhood. And I'll leave it there and I'll pass it on to Charletta.
Thank you, Todd. I think you set that up beautifully. You know, I never talked about my story because I thought I was good. You know, things happen to us as, you know, you go through things as a child, and you know, like I said, I just kind of pushed through. And when I compare myself with other people who have experienced what I talk about in the book is sexual abuse that I experienced as when I was 5. And, you know, when I look at statistics, when I look at, you know, stereotypically what happens to people who have experienced sexual trauma, you know, I wasn't promiscuous. I didn't end up on drugs. I didn't end up, you know, dysfunctional. I had a good childhood. I have a great family, you know, so for all intents and purposes, I just thought I was one of the lucky ones. I came out unscathed. It happened, you know, and you go on with your life. It wasn't until I was 40 that I really started to study, like through church and through my reading, the topic of intimacy. You know, intimacy is not just sexual. Intimacy is, you know, our interpersonal community, you know, connection as humans. And starting to recognize that while I thought I was an open book and I was a person who was very transparent and open to share everything, that I really kind of lived my life at keeping people at arm's length. And just through working through this with a friend and my support system, kind of traced the root of that all the way back to being a 5-year-old little girl who at that point made an agreement with myself. You can't burden anybody else with this. You can't bring this to anybody. You know, you don't want to cause any trouble. You don't want to get in trouble. You know, you don't want to be embarrassed, you know, so we'll just take care of this and we'll take care of ourselves, you know, meaning I'll take care of myself. So while I was always cared for, really from a 5-year-old little girl, I always made sure I could take care of me. And I've always saw that as a quality. I'm a very resilient, independent, successful businesswoman, coach, all of that. And it wasn't until I was in my 40s that I recognized that I had built a wall of protection around myself that kept others at bay, you know, and all of that traced back to these agreements that I made as a 5-year-old. So you can go through your whole life, you know, and think that you're good and not have things affect you in a way that might play out on TV, or even that might play out as some of the other ladies and my sisters here on this call. You can even look at yourself and go, wow, compared to her, is my story even really worth talking about? Maybe it wasn't that bad, you know, but I think each of us has, we have to own our story, and we have to own that, you know, it happened and we have to heal from it in our own way. And I think in the sharing of it, that's where the healing begins. That's where we begin to open the doors and tear down those walls of secrecy and things that keep us bound and form strongholds in our lives. So again, I'm just grateful for the space and the opportunity to do that.
Thanks, Charletta. If you will jump on.
Certainly. So my story in the book also is about the sexual abuse that I endured as a small child, like very small. And I chose to tell that story because it's relevant in my everyday life. Working with children, you never really know what the child goes through when they leave you. I had an incident where a little boy actually disclosed some information to me, and I didn't open my eyes to the fact of, wow, like, you're really going through this. And he was about 5, and I was in my 30s. And it's like, God, this is so real.
Mm.
So, I chose to talk about that because it is real. It happens. It happens every day, more than any of us care to even think about. And Ta, you're very right. We are told, what happens in this house stays in this house. And you better not be out there telling my business. And a lot of other different sayings that it just makes you afraid. It makes you afraid of what might happen to you if you do tell the business.
Right.
And nobody takes
How I'm
that.
going to be punished.
Right. And nobody really takes that fear into consideration with how these things keep going on. These things keep happening because we're not allowed to tell you that they're happening. So, I just, like I said, working with children, I just want to be that outlet for them if I can. If I could just send one child home per day that they could say, oh, Miss Shay loved me, then okay, I have done what God has set forth for me to do on this earth.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Shanae. That was awesome. Aisha, if you want to step up.
Sure. So I think for me, just writing about those pieces in my childhood really gave that inner child a voice, right? Just understanding that those things, are real. Those things have happened to other children. And it's not what happens to you in your childhood necessarily that defines who you become as an adult long term. So some people may look at you and see who you are today, right? See all the things that you've accomplished today, all the wonderful things that you're able to do on a day-to-day basis, but they may not be able to identify with what you had to go through to get to that point. So just giving people an insight as to these are the things that I endured, to do a few things. Number one, encourage them to be able to push through what they may be going through. And also give them insight into that you are a real person. You do have real experiences, you do have a history. And it all, and then sometimes it takes for one person or a group of women to kind of speak up and say, these things happen. How do we address them? How do we make sure they never continue to happen? I think in reading the book and reading the stories, I was able to see myself as a mother to make certain adjustments, right, as I parent my children. So not only are you able to speak your story, but you're also able to change the life of another person's story in the process. So just those particular events, those moments, those snippets, as you would call them, I think I identified them to saying, you know what, I'm not the only person that went through this. Let's talk about it. Let's have an open discussion about it.
All right, thank you, Aisha, Borough Street babe. And Inez, what encouraged you to join in? You're muted.
Okay. First of all, when my cousin when she told me about the book, I had no idea that the book was going to get this, they were going to go into depth that deep, because it's a very, the book is really deep, and when we started putting the book together, like pieces of the book together, and the ladies, I had to read each of the ladies' stories. And as I read their stories, my heart went out to all of them. And I was like, wow, it kind of like hit me like, wow, this book is really real. And I see it, the vision for the book, like Totisha said, the vision is to help other women or men who went through these childhood traumas and carried it into their adulthood. So being a part of this book and working with the individuals, each of the ladies on, putting the pieces together, it was a great opportunity for me. So as a therapist, connecting with the ladies and listening to them, I felt honored. I really did, because it takes a lot of courage to open up and tell the world, this happened to me, or this happened to me, and this happened to me, not knowing the impact that you guys are going to have on the world, period. Because there's a lot of people who's not standing up or who's not speaking out, and who were told to cover these type of traumas up. So I saw the whole vision when she said, okay, it's called Adult in My Childhood Pain. So I understood exactly where she was coming from. And as I read each of the women's stories and I got an opportunity to speak with each of the women, I was like, wow, because this is a powerful book. It's really powerful, because this is the reality for a whole lot of people, even the people who want to take this with them to their grave of whatever happened to them in their childhood, and can't understand or put together or connect why my adulthood is so like all disorganized and screwed up because of the trauma that happened in my childhood that I just swept under the rug. And I was like, okay, I don't want to feel that. And that's the reason why a lot of people turn to different negative vices, so they don't have to feel that pain. So I commend each of the women for being honest, vulnerable and honest, was sharing their stories with me, because I don't know any of the women. I just met the women. The only women I know on the project is my cousin Totisha. Everybody else, I just met them. So I do commend them for being honest with me and sharing intimate and sensitive parts of their childhood. And it takes a real powerful person to do something like that, especially not knowing whether you're going to be judged, looked at a certain way or anything. So I commend each and every one of you women, who put the book together, for your strength and allowing me to just sit and listen to you guys and do the role of the therapist, because I believe that you guys are really healing even through writing the book. It's a healing. Writing it down on paper, it's a healing process. So I felt really honored when she even asked me to be a part of this. I felt really honored to be a part of that, because I know that's not an easy thing to do, to share pieces of your story that really was trauma and you carried with you, like that. So I thank you. I really thank all the ladies.
Thank you, Inez. And I just want to share with the audience really quick what I've said with all of the women from the beginning in the process. And now, this is a life journey for us, is that although we don't share the same story, we do share the same pain. And that was what was so unique about us forming this sisterhood through this project. And knowing, again, like Inez said, no one knew each other on the project except me. I was the common denominator. And to see the love that we share among each other, even though we had our rough patches, we worked through them. It's like we embodied each other, we loved on each other, and we respected each other along the process. And I just want to share with anyone, if you are looking to heal and want to heal, don't know how to heal, if you want to be public or you don't want to be public, you just want to heal personally. If you go to Adult in My Childhood Pain, you can go to booking us, and at the bottom of the page, you will find where you can become either a journalist, where I teach you how to heal through journaling in an 8-week process, or at least begin your healing process. Just give you some navigation how to get there. Or if you want to become public with your story, you can also learn how to become an author in 8 weeks. And I guide you from beginning to end with that. Because as Vincent stated inside of his presentation, is that whether it's 9 stories or 9,000 stories, the list goes on. And I don't know about the ladies on the panel, but I know for me, when I posted this to my page, I had so many people, again, that are still scared to share their stories, but are so happy that I was able to be transparent and give them a voice. And there were so many private messages that says, Thank you for doing something that I'm too scared to do. Thank you for being the change. Thank you for being the voice. So that is just a true comment to say that this is real. This is real out here, and we need to pay more attention. And just maybe just ask someone, what did you go through as a child? Maybe it's just the point of someone not talking about their story because no one asked. They were told to be quiet. So just a simple question, because, you know, I did another panel on Wednesday, and the same thing happened. It was so many women that said, hey, I've been through this too. Oh, I'm not alone. And I think when we understand that, no, you're not alone. No, you don't have to be ashamed of what you've been through, because it's not you. You're not alone. And you don't have to be ashamed about what someone did to you. You don't have to sit in darkness because what someone did to you. But what do we do with the process, and what do we do with the healing? We leave it to where it no longer controls us. It doesn't live our life for us, but we live our life to the fullest because we were able to be transparent, to live our life by telling our story so that we can be the true organic us, and we can walk in our purpose in life. And I believe that my purpose in life, that, you know, just writing the book about my husband, it was just the beginning of the navigation to where God truly wants me to be. I think that I've truly found my purpose, helping other people heal from the inside out. So that's what I like to say about all of us, lady. We are courageous women healing from the inside out. And Vincent, I'll give it back to you.
I have to remember to unmute. First thing in this technology world we're living in. Yeah, Tatisha, it's just amazing, again, to hear the stories, and not just the stories about the women. What struck me was the men in your early childhood that went unchecked. You know, and the news story of the last news cycle, the last week, all about the Duggar family, if you're all familiar with that, and how it's a family where they even have a television reality show with the woman, husband and wife, who had 18 children, and they got a reality show on, I forget, I think it was the Learning Channel, but their claim to fame was that they kept on popping babies out one after another, somewhere down in the depths of Arkansas or someplace.
I think that was TLC.
Was it TLC? I'm
Yeah,
not
I think it's a TLC channel.
Yeah, I just saw the news. I forget the headline news a day or two ago. In any event, they were saying how, as a professed Christian family, that, you know, it was their duty to have as many children as they possibly could, and to homeschool them and to raise them right up in the Lord and all of that. And the girls were supposed to be, you know, dressing a certain way and talking a certain way and thinking in a certain way and so forth. And what happened was, as I understand it, the oldest boy was actually abusing the younger daughters and other girls that came into the family circle. Last week or the week before, the FBI came in, put the guy in handcuffs, and hauled him away for pedophilia. It would be amazing to have the girls who went through that trauma talk about their experience, because it was hidden, and you just alluded to it in this session, that you were told not to talk about it outside of the home. So I'm sure that they had a veil of secrecy in that home that impacted not only their family, but impacted their family livelihood, because they were being paid to put on a show about what a great family they had, when in reality there was some pretty terrible things going on right underneath the roof, right?
A lot of brokenness.
Yeah, and you know, Tatisha, I'm so you know, I'm amazed that the Lord takes us on this journey. We have all sinned and come short of the glory of God. Every single one of us. Goes all the way back to Adam and Eve. You know, it's not new, and it's not confined to any demographic group. It's not confined to the city or to rural Arkansas. It can be anywhere, and evil raises its ugly head. Just a few years ago in Connecticut, some young man decided to take a gun and kill a bunch of first graders in Newtown. And, you know, this fresh news, right? What went through the mind of that young man, that teenager? What was in his heart? What evil lurked in there? And what could have been done if maybe he had had a way to share his childhood trauma and had gotten to the right medical and psychological help that he needed? So you don't know where this anthology is going to go, and how many other women will join your journey, and who God will direct into your lives.
Oh, we have a waiting list already, so
I'm
that's a beautiful
sure.
thing.
I'm absolutely sure. And you know, I hope you'll be able to share that with the writers group. You know, we meet on the fourth Thursday of every month, and to share that story and the evolving story, because I think that that opens up a lot of doors to not just getting the word out about the book, but about future books that you plan to write and future stories that you plan to share. So I thank you for letting me be a part of the call. I know we were supposed to end the call at 7 o'clock, and it's coming up in 6 minutes from now. So
Yes. Yes, you negated to one thing that I kind of wanted to touch on really quickly, was when you talk about, you know, the gentleman that was in the house and he was molesting on the children. He actually was married as well as he had children of his own. So that just lets you know psychologically there was something on. Then you talk about the man who was in a school who decided to kill, you know, several first graders. This definitely is a platform to raise awareness, to understand if we do not deal with the pain that we're told to bury, I'm giving you permission to heal, because it definitely leads into our mental health. Mental health is real. This is why it ties back into my first book, His Life, Our Story, because mental health is real. And sometimes we're so compact with all of the hurt, the pain, you know, just the abandonment, the resentment, all the different things that we feel, they're buried inside, and it becomes one of those things that hurt people. So you don't have to hurt anyone to elude from your pain or to hide your pain. You can heal. You have my authority. You have God's authority to heal. And the healing begins with you. All you have to say is, I want to heal, and do the work. It doesn't matter who's in the story. They have to go through their own transparency. They have to want to heal for themselves. But anyone who wants to heal, that has so much brokenness buried inside, you have the authority to heal. That's all I got. Charletta, you want to take over from here?
I think that's a great way of wrapping it up. And I'm just hear Aisha's words kind of echoing in my head. And trauma does not have a face, you know, it doesn't have a look. It doesn't have, you know, it's not something that you would readily recognize walking down the street. Yes, for some people, there are the obvious clues, you know, for some people you can see they've been through something, they look like what they've been through. But for most of us,
Right.
you know, it might be that, you know, I say to myself all the time, especially when I have disagreement or tension with somebody, there's always a story behind the story. And we take people at face value, and we take people the way that we perceive them, you know, but you never know where that person's coming from or what their paradigm is or how they got here to this place where they now have tension with you. You don't know what they brought into the room with them. So I think, you know, just as God gives us so much grace, we have to extend so much grace to each other. You know, we have to just allow so much room for understanding, for real conversations, you know, even for ourselves to humble ourselves sometimes and go, you know, maybe I don't understand everything that there is to know here, but I would just leave with that. Like, trauma does not have a face. It doesn't have a look. And sometimes we need to go deeper. We need to ask more. And sometimes we just need to extend each other a little more love and a little more grace.
All right. So I'm going to just end it on this. Healing is never an easy task, or does it feel good to go through your past? But what does feel good is when you deal with the pain and the airy feeling that you have to just fly high as you possibly can. So healing starts with you. That's our time. Make sure you purchase Adult in My Childhood Pain. If you just visit our site, Adult in Our Childhood Pain, we would love all the support that we possibly can. And we hope that you find a healing in what you read. Thank you.